Hey, what is going on, Indie Mogul? My name is Ted, and today we're going to be talking about filmmaker style. Specifically, what does it mean for a director to have style? And today to talk about this, we got my friend from the show, Hendrix Dyas, who's the production designer behind films such as Inception, Steve Jobs' Passengers, and he's worked with so many iconic directors out there that today we're going to be breaking into a couple of the most famous directors of all time, talk about what makes their visual style so great, talk about thematically what makes their movies so good, and also fundamental art styles that go into each director's visual style, and talk about how that actually works and plays out in the actual movies they make. So let's do this.
Well, as you said, if anyone doesn't know what this is, they really need to go watch some films. We're looking at The Shining, Stanley Kubrick. We can talk straight away about one of those characteristics about Stanley Kubrick's style, which is he did love symmetry. There was a balance and very often a symmetrical one-point perspective sensibility to a lot of his shots. I mean, look at this. This is amazing. You've got Jack Nicholson leaning over this maze. He is central to the frame. Again, we've got that one-point perspective. Funnily enough, a lot of people are always wondering, what is the story behind those two little girls? Everyone knows, I think, that Stanley Kubrick started his career as a photographer. I believe the two girls came from a photograph he saw by Diane Arbus, who had created a bunch of really beautiful photographs depicting American life, and one of them were these two twins, and it was a slightly haunting image, and it just stayed with Stanley, and he wanted to use it, I think, in The Shining. He's renowned for sort of doing just dozens of takes of the same scene, and I think a lot of people see that as sort of one of the negative sides of perhaps Stanley Kubrick, that he was the sort of crazy dude who do sort of 50 or 60 takes of the same thing. But in reality, I think that what he was probably trying to do was get his actors, his performers, into almost a state of trance where they're just performing over and over again. Lines just roll off their lips and it feels very natural. And maybe that's one explanation for the multiple takes, you know. Let's talk about the technology. You're absolutely right. There was a whole thing with the cameras. As the mythological story goes, Stanley Kubrick was able to come across some lenses that had been used by NASA. They were highly sensitive lenses that had been developed by NASA. He was able to somehow swindle his way into getting hold of these.
I'm sorry, Kubrick used NASA glass?
I think so. I believe some poor guy who was the custodian of these lenses ended up getting fired for letting them go to Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick then proceeded to hire this guy and keep him on payroll for the rest of his life. So there you go, commitment to his craft. So we have the great Ang Lee, and of course we're looking at a scene from one of his masterpieces, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. First of all, his directorial inspirations span from Fellini to Bergman to Kurosawa. He's all over the map with his inspirations. His characters, I think, in some ways have the greatest arc. You really get to go on a journey with these characters with Ang. I think one of the common threads with all his films is he's attracted to characters that have, I suppose, insecurities and weaknesses, and at the same time possess these wonderful skills or talents. Ang was always looking for things he could put into the frame to tell something about the lifestyle of the people around his main protagonist, and that sometimes extended to nature. One of the things I remember from Ang is he always enjoyed time of day. He was always very excited about sunrises, sunsets. I wonder if Turner is a better artist.
That is what I was going to say.
For Ang. Maybe it's Turner. Look at that sky. When I look back at some of Ang's work, you can see that same attention to detail, helping to layer and fill up the frame with interesting information behind the character. And it's probably because he is so well traveled. I mean, and so well, I think, educated about different cultures around the world. And he is a very global human being. And there probably isn't a director who bridges the gap between East and West better than Ang, really. Well. I mean, I think he is that guy. Okay, the one and only Spike Lee, the great Spike Lee. So we're watching Do the Right Thing. It turned the world of cinema upside down. This was a cultural revolution. This is somebody who can challenge issues of race and poverty and equality and social situations, and do it in a way where he's not inhibited. Spike's able to show us sides of society that not all of us get a chance to experience. And he does it in an entertaining, disarming, educational way. He's very honest about it. We're looking at it now. One of the things I think Spike's very famous for is, I think they kind of almost have a name for it, faces in a crowd. This idea that he can create these shots of people's faces and hold on them and keep an audience interested in these characters while they're expressing whatever emotion it is. I think it's called the double dolly shot, isn't it? Where you have the actors actually standing on a moving rig so that they look as though they're floating. I've seen that used in so many of Spike's films. I love it every time. I think it's in Malcolm X. It's in so many of his films. Particularly, I've noticed when he works with Wynne Thomas, who's his most regular production designer, for example. Yeah. There's a strong use of primary colors, which is always very, very beautiful. I am thinking of Basquiat. There's the use of bold colors. There's the use of bold imagery. Sure. Someone who's not afraid to break the rules, and someone who really was challenging everything that had gone before. I think he's so naturally attuned to the state of culture at that moment that he's able to almost subliminally draw in things that are going on musically, color, fashion, people's attitudes, street talk, expressions. He's always absolutely on point with those aspects of his films. And it's important because if he's telling contemporary stories about people on the street, in some cases, you want to feel that they're authentic. And he absolutely understands all of that stuff.
Now, before we get to our last director, let me tell you real quick about Backstage, which is the tool that we use to find literally all of our actors and voiceover artists. Now, you might think that it's kind of scary to use something like Backstage unless you're shooting a big budget film or a commercial. But let me tell you, Backstage is actually also perfect if you're looking for models or extras for your short film or super small passion project. They make it really easy for content creators to find people to put in their videos, whether you have a big budget or a small budget. And what's cool is that you can actually be as specific as you need and still find talent for the job. So for those of you guys out there that are looking for someone who can ride horses and do yoga and play clarinet in the same project, you can find them on Backstage. And you know that you can trust them because Netflix, HBO, and Disney all use Backstage as well, which is cool because anyone can get started for free, and here is how. Go to the link in the description, look for creators in the menu bar, and then go to post a job. Fill out your casting notice, and when you are ready to check out, just type in the code IndieMogul, and you'll be able to post for free. Now you're just one step closer to bringing that passion project to life. So thank you again to Backstage for sponsoring this video. And now, back to the episode.
Okay, this is the young upstart of the group here, Mr. Christopher Nolan. He and I are very similar ages, so I relate very strongly to Chris's inspirations. Stanley Kubrick, 2001, Ridley Scott, Blade Runner, Michael Mann, Heat, Collateral. When you look at a film like Heat, for example, and then you look at The Dark Knight, tell me those films don't have a relationship, you know? For Inception, we're dealing with one of Chris's, pet fascinations with multiple intercutting of storylines. I mean, he's just so fascinated with, I think, non-linear timelines. He's fascinated with time and space, whether it's Inception, Interstellar, or, my personal masterpiece of his, Memento. His inspirations also, beyond those filmmakers, would be the James Bond series. I mean, he's talked about it, I know, but he likes particularly the era of James Bond films where a lot of the effects were done practically. People skiing off mountainsides in real life and ejecting parachutes, and getting one go at that in a James Bond film back in the late 70s or whenever it was. Those are the things that really excite him. I think Chris is sort of the scientist. He's the sort of the scientist of the group, and he loves science and he loves mathematics. Very interested in art and architecture, I know that for a fact. He's also very good at communicating his ideas with diagrams and little drawings, and he's a very talented draftsman in many ways. But if you want the architectural mathematical end of things, then you just have to go straight to Escher. There's also great imagery here, I think, that lends itself to the manipulation of time as well, like the two hands drawing themselves, There was no such thing as a second unit on a Chris Nolan film. And you think about the scale of what he's doing in films like Interstellar and The Dark Knight, and you'd think that a film of that scale would demand a second unit. Like, for example, the coffee cup that we see here with the little sort of ripple on it, or even the spinning top, which was made so famous in this film. They only give you the emotional read that they do because Chris is the one doing them. I know that sounds crazy, but when a director knows how much wobble he wants on his coffee,
yeah, absolutely.
If that's important to someone like Chris, well, God damn it, I'm right there with him. He just wants to get the shot, and he wants to put himself right there. He doesn't want to be way back in a heated tent or something, sitting in a chair. Never seen Chris sit down on set. He wants to be right there, getting the performances and really being involved, which is extraordinary, really.
For indie filmmakers out there, for people that are starting to find a visual style, do you have any recommendations for ways that they can think about visual style, or maybe recommendations of things not to do? All
of these people who are making films are going to be, first of all, they're definitely going to be driven. They're going to be strong personalities. I'm sure they are. There's people out there going, I want to make my first feature. And that's fantastic. The only thing I would say is starting out, just be smart about what you can achieve with the tools that are at your fingertips.
Sometimes people see the big movies and they think, oh, there's all these big pieces and that's the style. But every one of these directors has an early film. Wes Anderson has a student short film where you can see his style there. And
it is not the Grand Budapest Hotel. It couldn't be at that time. And I think that's really important. If there's one thing to take away from our conversations, it's just that. Don't look at the latest film from these auteurs and their incredible, the ability and the things that they can command now. Go way back to the beginning and see the humble beginnings that they all came from. Go with baby steps first,
Thank you so much again for being on the show. Super fun.
Second time, I'm so happy. Thank you.
I know, it's so much fun. Alrighty, guys, there you have it. There's your episode on directorial style with production designer Guy Hendrix Dyas. But did we miss anything? Let us know in the comments down below if there's anything else that you think of when you think about each of these directors. Likewise, if there are other directors that we did not mention in here. Again, there's so many great ones out there. Let us know in the comments which directors you'd like to see us cover next. Again, thank you to Backstage for sponsoring this video. Bring your film projects to life by going to the link in the description down below and use the code IndieMogul to post for free. And finally, give a big thank you to Guy Hendrix Dyas for coming onto the show and talking through this with us. But other than that, my name is Ted. This is Indie Mogul. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, we will catch you guys in the next one.
Now, I don't know how many takes they did of this, but I want you to watch how the candles never change. I can tell you, having done films like Elizabeth the Golden Age and The Brothers Grimm, these candles burn down very, very fast. You can set up a shot like this, Ted, and by the time you're ready to shoot, your candles have gone and you got to put some new ones in. But look at this. The candles are absolutely perfection. I guarantee you, off the set somewhere are these poor set dressers who are cutting down hundreds of candles so that they're always the same height when they burn them.